All right, we are live, and let me mute the background.
That was such a nice little intro.
Thank you. And Wave put this together. This is the software that I'm using right here. I've worked with them to where when I say go live, I can pick it. And so instead of having that microsecond where I'm trying to hit the trigger really fast and do an intro, it preloads it, and then it flows in as if I'm some kind of a crazy professional. I know,
the future is now. The future is now, ladies and gentlemen.
It definitely is. Speaking of which, I've got the magic guest himself. Spidey, how are you doing?
I'm doing awesome, man. Thank you for having me again. Always such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's a real treat. And what I wanted to do with this, I actually did this last week with Gavin and Lena, and I've done it with
that was
the behavior
amazing.
panel.
That was so good.
Well, thank you. I'm hoping that folks in the chat probably have been wanting to ask you questions for a while whenever you appear with Legal Bites. You know, I know some of the super chats come through and things like that, but this is an opportunity for everyone to literally ask questions. We may look at a clip or two, but I definitely want to focus on the chat and giving an opportunity for people to ask questions. So for the chat, it really helps me a ton if you actually type in the word question or a Q, colon, something saying it's a question, because when you're talking to each other in the chat and everything's flowing, it gets a little bit confusing, and I'm trying to hold together the conversation. So please just flag me. I don't know if I'll get to everything. We've got pretty much a hard stop in an hour, and I want to keep things tight to that.
Also, Eric, maybe we should tell some of your subscribers who I am, for those of
those two people who don't know who you are. Spidey is an individual with quite the past here. We've gone from magic, which you still do, right? You're still touring with your hypnosis and
mentalism,
and mentalism show.
Yeah.
And
which is where I got a lot of this, a lot of my ability to sort of read people and get a tell on people is absolutely a result of mentalism, because I've been doing it on stage for years. And it's funny when I talk to behavior analysts, because I have a certification in criminal interrogation. I have a degree in social psych. So I'm kind of like, I walk between both worlds. And it's fascinating because when I tell interrogators, like, with mentalism, it's the only profession where you profile someone, you get a read on someone, and you have to tell them that read, and they have to applaud and then buy tickets to come see your show again. So it's kind of crazy how it's the only profession where when you get a read on someone, you tell them what that read is, and they have to be impressed. So a lot of it connects.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and mentalism's using Barnum statements and cold reading and things.
A lot of that, a lot of like, a lot of with mentalism, when I do cold reads, and that's where I have an edge over other performers, is I do use behavior profiling, body language. So it's never just Barnum statements, because if you just make Barnum statements one after the other, it becomes sort of like, oh, we get what you're doing. You're like a fortune cookie. You're like a human fortune cookie. So you start broad and then you get closer and closer. But with the body language and the profiling, it really, really helps to zero in on someone's personality and what they're experiencing and what they're feeling. And you see a bit of stress and you call that out. So it really works well when I mix my two passions in performance.
Oh, sure. And that's something that you and I actually have talked about this on the side. And I like the fact that you don't only use body language when you're doing your videos or anything else. You are definitely mixing a whole lot of statement analysis, which is a completely different discipline, but I think extraordinarily effective, because I feel that statement analysis in many ways is a great thing for people who are not naturally perceptive in tracking micro expressions or movements or things like that. You can legitimately just look at the page, take as long as you would like, and look at every word and say, did they use the word we when they said we went to the safe? Why did they use the word we? Because it would be both of them. There's actual structure to it.
Pronoun shifts, tense shifts, contractions versus non-contractions, there's a ton of stuff there, exclusions, perception qualifiers, all these things. And, you know, we're talking about Amber Heard today. There is so much, I think, in my analysis that I'm doing right now, and to a lot of my followers who are here from my channel, thank you so much. Make sure to subscribe to Eric. He's amazing. He has amazing guests. Some people I really look up to. Some of my friends always hear some really great information. And please be patient. I'm working on my analysis. I do deep dives. I don't like to react immediately because there's things I'll miss. There's things I need to listen to again, really look at again. So I'm doing my deep dive on Amber right now. It's going to be coming out this weekend. On her cross-examination. And I would say that most of it is statement analysis, because when Camille is drilling her, and Camille did such an incredible job, it was like interrogation level questioning. It was so good. And
it was precise. It was very precise. That was the beauty of it, is she did not waver. She did not wiggle. She did not allow her to filibuster, because that was a big problem. And by the way, I'm pro Johnny, folks, but they let Johnny go run all over them. You know, during cross, he would not answer, and he would speak in long speeches and things like that. Very much, Camille did not allow.
No, she put her foot down. Yeah, she put her foot down and said, "Listen, I'm the one running this interrogation." And what's really great about her is she's the first person in this entire trial who shut down Amber's attempts at gaslighting. I talk a lot about gaslighting and manipulation and these statements you make to take over a narrative and shift someone's perspective. Camille always shut that down and say, "Hey, no, that's not what I asked. This is my question. Yes or no? Yes or no?" And it's a little sort of authoritative. And in interrogation, we're probably going to see that a lot closer to the end of the interrogation, because in the beginning, it's a lot more conversational, a lot more trying to get the information, trying to get those clusters of deception to see where to dig deeper. So this was a little bit more consistent what you'll see towards the end, when we're really, you know, going in and poking. And she was just fantastic. So big props there. But Amber, so here's the thing. We are seeing less clusters of deception during cross-examination than we did during direct. And that's strange, because we're seeing more deception, but less indicators of deception. A big part of the reason is Camille isn't asking, "Is this what happened?" Very often she's saying, "Is this what you said?" And Amber is going, "Yes." And we're seeing a very direct, clusterless answer, because it's true. That is what she said. So she's just corroborating that, yeah, that's what I said. That's what I did say. So we're going to see less clusters there. But once Camille starts doing that comparative, and she went on for hours just saying, "Here's what you said, here's the evidence," and it just does not match up.
Oh yeah, and it was brutal. I haven't even got through it all, but it was so fun. Quick note, and you're frozen. Hopefully you'll be unfrozen soon. Do you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Do you not hear me?
I hear you fine. You're frozen on my screen, but let me see.
No.
Oh no, you're moving. You're moving on YouTube, so I'll just assume that you're moving just fine, even though I don't see you. Very weird. Amber Heard has a problem with words, which I think is so funny. When she's trying to parse the freaking words with Camille, and there's two things that I noticed very specifically, and I'm going to bet you went into them. She doesn't believe in a sequence, right? She said, "I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this." Now, what is that? You just stated things in a sequence. This is English, folks. I never stated anything in a sequence. Yeah. And she just keeps dying on these dumb hills, which are mind-blowing. Also,
that is the quote, Eric. That is the quote of the century. She's dying on these dumb hills, because here, I'm sorry to cut you off. And
sure.
You know what? Actually, finish your point.
No, I mean, go ahead, and I can finish in a sec.
Okay. From day one, my claim has been this, and there's going to be some people in the chat that are going to decimate me for this, but as you know, when it comes to behavior analysis, we always try to not be opinionated, because the moment we're opinionated, the moment we go in with a bias, our analysis is worthless. So anybody who's like polarized or speaking in absolutes, everything she says is a lie. I could tell she's lying. Well, what you can tell does not constitute detection of deception. So from day one, I've said we have to stay unbiased, and I've said the following, and I still stand by that. There might be some truth to what she's saying somewhere, but because there are so many provable inconsistencies, so many provable straight up lies, you throw everything away. And she becomes the girl who cried wolf. Because when there's that much deception, we don't know where the truth is. And I believe that a much better strategy would have been from day one to just stick to the truth. You don't have to have these big elaborate stories of being thrown across the room and landing on a ping pong table with him flying after you, and phones that are broken that don't exist, and things that are obviously embellished and exaggerated. And I say obviously as a figure of speech here, but things that are embellished and exaggerated, seemingly, probably, and you don't have to do all that because all you have to do for this defamation claim is to prove that he once got out of hand. If you can prove that he once got out of hand with you, that's it.
Or you feared it. You don't even need that. And you can use his own witnesses, because words equate to violence, that their own witnesses. So, but yeah, and the second part is she considers a pledge the same as a donation. And she kept trying to ram that through, where it's so obviously ahead. She's like a 3-year-old child lying in this instance. It's beyond frustrating to see that.
And offers the worst metaphor to support that. Did you hear a metaphor?
I probably forgot. Go ahead.
So to defend that claim, she goes, so we have footage of her on TV saying she donated this money. And Camila's asking her, when did you donate this money? How much did you donate? She's going, I pledged it. Well, did you donate? I pledged it. Back and forth for like 20 minutes. Then the metaphor that she offers, and this is like, the metaphor that she offers is, it's like when you say you buy a house, you don't pay the whole thing. You put a down payment and pay in increments.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I do remember
that. Which is an awful metaphor. And here's why it's an awful metaphor. When you buy a house, the seller gets 100% of the money.
Yes, you're paying the
bank.
Then
you pay the bank. But that's not what's happening here. Because by you comparing that metaphor, what you're stating is that the charity got 100% of the $7 million. You're just making payments towards that. That's not true. That is a terrible metaphor. And that upset me.
Well, yeah, it's a terrible metaphor in other ways too, because you've got literally the only money that they did get was from somebody else that she rooked into paying to. It's just, it is such a disaster. And she didn't, again, why die on that hill? Just say.
That's exactly
just say,
what I'm saying.
I got it wrong. I was putting it out there. I'm trying to get it together. And that's it. Don't sit there. I pledge.
Sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. I should have paid it. She said at some point that she feared she needed the funds to afford this lawsuit. Fine.
14 months prior to the lawsuit. Yes.
I get it. Like, it's all I'm saying is, like, now, here and now, that's not a terrible excuse. But this whole comparing it to a buying mortgage. A house,
yeah.
Especially when you're, and then, like, there's so many things where at some point they did a side by side. They showed 2 photographs, and she's being asked what the difference is between the 2, and she goes, "Well, it seems like on one of these, these were taken on the same day." But it seems like one of them, I had the lights of my vanity on, and that's like a warmer sort of light. And on this other one, it was more like a natural light, so it looks like a colder feel. But it's the exact same photo. There's no denying it. It's the same angle, the same stray hairs, like identical. Like, how stupid do you think we are? Because Camille flat out asks her, "Is it not true that this is the same photo, but you increase the saturation on one of them to bring out the red?" And she goes, "No, I just flat out, no, just denies it." And it's like, what? Like, we would have to be stupid to believe that.
Again, that's like a child. I mean, have you seen a child who's cornered, and all they know is double down, double down, double down, double, and that's literally what she's doing.
And they go to a place I like to call, "I'm not lying, you're lying." Like, that's sort of like you have nothing left, so you're like, "I'm not lying, you're lying. I didn't say that, you said that." Like, just stop. Like, Amber, this is recorded. People are watching this, Amber. This isn't one of those arguments you're having one-on-one with Johnny where you can kind of throw some shade at it and be like, I didn't say that, you said that. This is all on record. There's comparative, like, people. This is what's crazy. She's using tactics that we use when we're really backed up in a corner in a one-on-one situation. And, you know, that gaslighters often use to get out of these things. Like, oh, no, that's not what you said. I know what you said. But we know what you said. It's on record. Camille is not an idiot. She's far from it. She's brilliant.
That's the problem. I don't think that Amber has actually had to face a Camille. I think that Amber is used to being the most beautiful girl in the room, having people kowtowing to her, showing her displeasure at any moment that gets people to go, oh, I'm displeasing the princess. And that is a problem. Plus, Camille is put together, very attractive, very on point in many ways. She's attractive, she's smart, she's concise, she's very professional. She's everything that Amber is not really representing herself to be. Yeah. And that was a good choice too, because just the fact that it's Camille doing that is needling the hell out of her.
So there's a couple of things about Camille that make this the most brilliant choice from the prosecution for Camille to be doing this cross-examination. So one of them is, like you said, her capacity to just pin her to the wall anytime she's trying to wiggle out of something with throwing some shade at it. The second thing is, it's few and far in between, but whenever we see her interactions with the judge, like Camille asking the judge something, like if it's time to go to lunch or if she would like a copy of this document, she is the sweetest little thing. She's like, you know, she's like, would you like smiling? Would you like one? Oh, I'm sorry, like apologetic and super like, oh, and then she goes back to Amber and it's like, bam, She-Hulk comes out, literally, because She-Hulk's a lawyer. And
okay, on point.
Yeah, bam. So I love that contrast, because to the jury, they look at that and go, this is a sweet little lady, but look at what Amber is bringing out of her.
Yeah, and she can't stand her. She can't stand her. It's like, oh, now it's you. Okay, back to you.
Exactly. And this sort of goes to Johnny and to saying, like, this is just what Amber brings out of people, the nastiest version of them. And you know what? It's what it's bringing out of all of us, everyone in the comments, everyone watching, my subscribers. I like to think of us in general as kind people. Eric, you're an enormously kind person. Alita is an enormously kind person. Nate is an enormously kind person. Chase, Lena, these are all kind people, and she's bringing out the worst in us. I found myself in moments of my analysis talking about her in ways that I'm not supposed to be talking about someone that I'm analyzing, because it's almost like when you take us for that much of a fool and you have this dismissive tone, you're going to get us triggered. You're going to get not just us. And we could see this overwhelming amount of people who are going, we don't believe that this person was abused, because there's this unpleasantness that she puts forward.
Yeah. And by the way, you don't even need body language. You don't need it. I mean, the facts are there. Part of the reason I think it's so popular is there are very few people that I can't show the testimony and they're like, what? She's crazy. Because, you know, she goes into such a degree with her stories, like, again, because she has problems with sequences. Why does she have a problem with the sequence? Well, because maybe it looks really weird that he somehow lost the tip of his finger while smashing up a phone completely, but still with his fingerless. By the way, I do have the tip of my finger missing. So I actually can 100% relate to Johnny Depp. And I know how it feels.
Where's
I lost it when I was 10. Anyway, I lost it when I was 10. But my point is that, do you think that when my finger was crushed off, I was saying, let me hold somebody down? Now, which hand? Was it the bloody hand holding her down? Or was it, or how is he holding this bottle? And I'm not going to go into details because it's YouTube. Sure. But how in the world is he holding her down, maneuvering a bottle in very crude ways with the tip of his finger cut? Very unlikely.
I will say this for just a moment. I'll play devil's advocate. In trauma, we do tend to jumble sequence up, and in remembering trauma, we tend to block certain things out because our mind is just trying to deal with it. But that being said, she should not have presented it as a sequence, because if she initially said, listen, it's out of order in my head, I'm not sure, but here's a list of things that happened. If she said it that way, that would be different. But she came out and said, this happened and that happened. And I remember, and she said, I remember. But is Sadie here? Is Sadie watching? because Sadie made that amazing
2
compilation.
minute and 5 second supercut of I remember.
So that was like, just, I remember this, I remember that, and I remember. If you are good, there's nothing wrong with someone remembering something out of sequence. Nothing wrong with that. I've dealt with a lot of trauma victims, and when they tell me things, there's things missing, there's things out of sequence, there's even things that don't make sense. But they embrace that. Don't try to sell something like you remember it really well. And also, it's funny how in direct, it was all I remember.
Oh, she remembers.
Cross it was, I think, I'm not sure, I can't remember. I don't know, I don't recall, I don't know, I don't recall. I think, I seemed, it was all that. Cross was also, all of a sudden her memory is failing her when Camille is the one asking the questions. And I think if you were to ask most interrogators, ask Lena, ask Chase, ask Greg Hartley, what is the number one answer in an interrogation that is difficult for the interrogator?
I don't
remember. I don't recall. I don't remember. So because what do you can't really do anything with that. You can't keep prodding. They're saying they don't remember, and it's not technically incriminating to not remember something. So
Sadie still dreams about that video.
Yeah, I think we all do. I think Sadie has just like traumatized us for life with that compilation. But it's incredible how if she were to try to do that same thing during Cross, she wouldn't have much to work with. There wasn't too many I remembers. And it's important. It's important to look at someone talking about the same events with a completely different vernacular. Why don't you remember anymore all of a sudden?
There's the other problem too, where phone smashed to pieces. There's never a picture of that. Her face blown apart and with blood everywhere. Never a picture of that. Her only witnesses seem to be Jerry Judge, who sadly has passed away, her mother, who sadly has passed away. So it's like, why
her sister took this down today, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Because I think
see that.
I think it was interesting. I didn't see much of it. I saw a couple of minutes because it's crazy. Like I was telling you when we were hanging out earlier before the stream went live, like I get the footage. I have to watch 12 hours of footage, deep dive, really analyze deeply. While I'm doing that, new stuff is happening. So I have to like take that, include my analysis, and then new stuff is happening. It's crazy. It's insane. And I think there's value to her sister's testimony. But you're right. Like, why is it that Jerry Judge has all this information? He's not around. The mom has all this information. She's not around. The sister, her information, listen, it's debatable how incriminating her information is. It's interesting, but
there's something. Yeah. Remember weeks and weeks ago, like 2 years ago when this trial started, I told you there was something between him and the sister.
I know you did.
So I'll be interested in her testimony to find out if there's anything there. But that was the one part of his testimony. I brought it out and I shared it with you, and I was like, there's something here. And even Greg Hartley, we looked at it together on this channel. If anybody wants to check it out. So there is something there. I haven't heard that yet. I've been out of town and literally with no internet. So it's like,
so let's talk really quickly about Whitney. Also, let's take some questions if there are any.
Let's get the questions. We got a bunch ready. So let's go right into that.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go with Spidey. Can you explain what Barnum statements are?
Yeah, of course. Barnum statements is something that psychics, mediums, and mentalists use when they're doing a reading on you. It's a general statement that applies to most people. And when we say it, so a lot of people think that a cold read is just Barnum statement, Barnum. So let me give you an example. If I were to say, for example, sometimes you set goals that are a little further from your reach and you get really anxious when you realize that it's not quite obtainable. But you've often surprised yourself because when you work hard at them, you can obtain those goals. So when you say something like that to someone, most people go, oh my God, that's so true. I do that. Because they don't realize that that applies to a very big demographic of people. As humans, we all tend to do things like that. So Barnum statements are things that we say that seem really specific, but if you really think about it, it applies to a broad demographic of people. People misunderstand how we use this, though, in mentalism. In mentalism, if I were to just make Barnum statement after Barnum statement after Barnum statement, somebody in the audience at some point is going to go, wait a second, all those things apply to me too. So that's not a great read. We use Barnum statements as a way to fill in moments where we're not sure what to say to get us to the next point. So as to connect statements, we also use it to gauge someone's reaction. So if I say something like that to you, you might say either, yeah, I do that. Like you might pause and go, yeah, I do that. that gives me information. It tells me you're someone who's analytic and takes time to consider things before you make decisions. Whereas if the moment I'm done, you go, oh my God, it's so true. I do that. In fact, blah, 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 I did this and that. Now I know that you're someone who really doesn't think much before you talk. And sometimes you say things and stumble on them. So now your reaction to my Barnum statement can allow me to know where to go with my reading. And I'm getting information from you as a response to that Barnum statement. So, but to answer your question, Barnum statements are general statements. Thank you for the question. Wonderful question.
Would this be another good variant of that too? Like Spidey, you really enjoy being the center of attention in a group. But there are also times that having too many people around you can just get kind of overwhelming. And then you actually answer one or the other. I said the same thing in two different directions, and technically they're universal.
So that is actually not a Barnum statement. That is called the 100 principle. And it's based on the fact that nobody is 100% of anything. So if I look at someone, and people misunderstand this in profiling, if I look at someone and I say that you are, here's a great example. So if I say to someone, you're a very creative person and you follow that creativity, because I observed on them a lot of indicators of creativity. Maybe they have big flashy earrings and they have a bunch of nice tattoos and their clothing is colorful. And I could see something about the way they move through life. And I go, you're a very artistic person. You follow creativity, always have. Creativity speaks to you. So that person, when they're doing their taxes, isn't that creative. They're very analytic. So nobody is 100% of anything. Sure. So the 100% statement, which is beautiful the way you did it, actually, Eric, I think you have a future as a mentalist, is when...
Or a con man.
Hey. When you take something that is contrasted, and some people like this, some people like that, and you take a guess and you go, most of the time you're like this, but sometimes you're opposite of this. So sometimes you're like that. And you look at which one they connect with more, and you just go down that path.
Okay. I mixed them up. I thought that was a similar principle, though.
It is similar.
Getting them out themselves. Which way?
I think it is. I think you could consider the 100 part of the Barnum statement, because that statement still will apply to most people.
All right. Well, I always appreciate Georgina. Thank you so much. She is a sweetheart, but appreciate your review. It's very hard to like Amber Heard. While I know that JD is guilty of some horrible stuff, he didn't lie about it. AH started the defamation of character, which is why JD felt like he had to sue. I think, yes. I mean, this suit, however you break it down, is working out extremely well for him. Yeah. It's hard for her to unbury it. We've confirmed that she is out, no longer an Aquaman. So the retribution has begun taking place. The backlash has sank in, if you will. I think that Johnny will be working very soon.
So I can't tell if the reason they decided to not cast her in Aquaman is because all this looks really bad for her, or if it's because she showed the world how bad of an actress she is.
Doesn't really matter. She's a pain. Yeah, there's certain points like, what do we want her for? She's not the lead. Like with Johnny Depp, he was the lead in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Good point. Really good point.
She is a secondary character. Do we want all this trouble? No, we don't. But
okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I think that the point that was just raised is a good one. I think that a lot of the reason that people are really jumping on Amber's case is because there's a victim to her deception. Mm-hmm. If this was just her saying all these things and all this stuff happened and speaking in ambiguous terms, we would say, oh my God, poor her. She has BPD. Listen, BPD is not an easy thing to deal with.
No.
She is going to exaggerate in her head things that were done to her. She's going to see betrayals as physical pain. She's going to get obsessive. She's going to get delusional. This is part of BPD. And
she's trivializing real victims. That's the other part. So you have an actual victim. You're trivializing actual victims out there. Like Rihanna. Look at the Rihanna pictures next to Amber Heard and see if you can tell the difference.
Right. But if Johnny wasn't actually suffering from her deception, I think there would be more people sympathetic to her and saying, yeah, she's really minimizing what's happening to other people, but it's BPD. She's great. She needs help. And we're still saying that. She needs help. But because there's a victim to the crime, which is A, Johnny, and B, as you so astutely pointed out, people who actually have suffered through this, Johnny being one of them, people are a lot more aggressive towards her because it's like, you can't do this to actual victims and you can't do this to Johnny Depp.
Okay, this is an important question for you, Spidey.
Yeah.
How much does Davina need to donate to ask Spidey to marry you?
If I wasn't already engaged, it would be a big 0 on that. Love all the subscribers. I'd marry any one of you. I'd marry Eric in a second.
Oh, thank you. All right. To Anita, question. Do you think Amber is still obsessed with Johnny? She keeps using present tense words like, because I love him, not loved him. Looks to me like she's trying to, I'm going to say, it's cut off, but we get the idea. And I agree, Anita Paul.
So, so listen, again, let's talk about BPD, borderline personality disorder. I can't diagnose this. I'm also not the best person to talk to you about it. My degree is in social psychology. I did spend years as a therapist, so I'm familiar. I have treated this before, but I'm not the expert on it. However, from what I do know about it, there is this obsession. And the worst thing you can do to someone with BPD is abandon them. Emotional abandonment will feel like physical pain to them. And we have a recording. I will be talking about this in my analysis. So if you got, I'm going to self-promote. If you're not following me, go follow that, subscribe, to smash the button, the like,
yeah,
whatever. I don't know what the spiel is. So, so what was I saying? Yeah, so there's a recording where we see her. All Johnny wants to do is leave. All he wants to do is go. And he's very calmly explaining to her that he just wants to just take a minute. And she's saying, you're killing me. You're physically killing. And she's freaking out. And it broke my heart to see that because it's such a crazy meltdown. And if we look at that, that's consistent with BPD. Abandonment feels like physical torture. So the fact that he left her, he abandoned her, the fact that he hasn't looked up at her a single time, and she's brought that up numerous times. And yes, the commenter so astutely recognized that even in times where she's talking about him in the past, he did this, I did that, he said this, I said that, and I didn't want to hurt him because I love Johnny. Mm-hmm. And it happens more than once. It's really hard to break a role of talking in past tense to put in something that's present tense. And she did it numerous times. I absolutely believe there are still feelings there. Whether they're authentic or not, I can't tell you. But I do believe that there's still currently hurt there from her that he let go of. I mean, look at some of those journal entries. It was a deep, passionate love that she had for him, and he turned his back on her.
Right, and he knew that too. I mean, this is obviously a conflict. And what was it he said? You will not feel my eyes upon you again, or something. Because everything he says is poetic too. He has that, that literary license. So he doesn't just say, I'm never going to look at you again. He says, you will not feel my eyes, Leon, or whatever. And that actually cuts her even deeper because she's a bit of a drama queen. And and I'm not trying to downplay her condition. It is a drama invoking type of condition from what I understand, especially histrionic side or whatever.
Yeah. And going back to Camille, I think this was by design to have the young, attractive lawyer who's been throughout the trial. She'll go bring a bottle of water to Johnny and kind of give him a little caress on the arm and look at him, smile at him. He smiles back, all this sort of thing. I think that's entirely by design because if you look at people with BPD, and I specialized in helping people deal with loss, any kind of loss. So there was a loss of a family member, or it was a breakup. That was my specialty. So very often I was treating BPD people after a breakup, and it's crazy to what extent you would hear things like, I went on his Instagram and I saw he's got a picture with this new girl. Who is this girl? Why is he with this girl? So they constantly do things like that. They constantly want to own that connection, and they don't want anybody to hijack that connection. So Camille is playing that role, and it's triggering Amber.
Definitely. Oh, yes. And I think you definitely caught this. Did you catch when Amber was talking about when Johnny supposedly hit her and she said, I was hitting me instead of he was hitting me?
Yeah, so she often does that. And that's, to me, pretty incriminating, where she will shift in a sentence the role, and instead of being the one who's abused, she's the abuser. And one of the biggest ones to me was when she said, and he comes up to me with this bottle, and I'm saying, did you drink this whole thing? and she's gesturing with it. She said, "Did you drink this whole thing?" And that can't be ambiguous. She said that, and she's gesturing with the bottle as if she's holding it. And also she says, "Did you drink this whole thing, not that whole thing?" It's very rare that we say this to something that somebody else is holding. You might hear it in French people, because with French people, it's
the adjective is reversed. It's like
it's not that it's reversed.
The cat blue versus the blue cat.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. Is that you would say "ce" to say either this or that. Cette bouteille. So, est-ce que tu as bu cette bouteille? So it's mine, or whether it's that. So that's why you'll often hear Frenchman say, "Did you put it on this table?" Like that, indicating that table, because to them this and that is pretty interchangeable. So in certain dialects you get that, but not in English. In English, this, and if you're holding it, it's that. So for her to go, "He's holding the bottle," and then I said, "Did you drink this whole thing?" Well, that you're holding the bottle. You're the one holding the bottle. You just said he's holding the bottle, but then you're gesturing like you're holding the bottle. So there's that. And then at some point she said, "He's holding me by the neck," and then I loosened my grip. What? So yeah, and then there was another one. It was in my last analysis. I'm trying to remember, but there was another one.
It was about when he was walking away and she was chasing after his.
Wow, good job. I could see you watch my videos, but that's exactly right.
Yes, there's a test later.
Yeah. It was exactly that. It was I'm trying to get away from him. She's just getting away, walking away from me, saying, "Where are you going?" That doesn't make sense. If you're walking away, he's not walking away from you.
Right. And she's like, well, and that's that cognitive load.
Isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So cognitive load is, so basically, I love this theory because this has been extensively proven by Aldrich Rye, who's probably besides Ekman, one of the biggest researchers on deception is.
Oh, it's Ray, by the way.
Oh, Ray?
Aldrich Ray. I've had him on.
Ray. Sorry,
I've had him on the channel, folks, so please check it out. But I have had him
on the channel?
Yes, yeah.
That's incredible. So I'm so sorry for the mispronunciation. It's just because it's pronounced Vrij. So
right, I know it's. I found out it was Ray. That's why I.
Ray, no, but it's just I first thought it was Vrij, and then I was told it's Ray, but I misremembered it as Ray. So Ray, Aldrich Ray, has done an enormous amount of research. It's brilliant, and one of the things he found is that liars have an increased cognitive load. What that means is this. Telling the truth is very simple. You remember the truth, you tell the truth. That's it. When you lie, you have to do a ton of things. First, you have to examine every other lie you've told about the same subject to see if what you're about to say matches and works with all of those. Amber's not very good at that. 2, you have to fabricate a lie, actually put together a lie. 3, you have to think about how you're going to present the lie. 4, you have to actually present the lie. And then 5, you have to look around the room to kind of spot.
Make sure they're receiving it.
They're receiving it right. So your brain is doing a whole lot of things to come up with a lie and present the lie. You also have to examine, how you presented it. You have to be aware of your mannerisms as you're presenting this. So there's a lot going on. And this has consequences on the way our brain works, because it's like your computer, when it has a whole bunch of windows open, it's going to perform slower. For one thing, we move less. It's been proven by Dr. Ray. By Dr. Ray. It's been proven that liars move less because their mind is doing so many other things, it doesn't have time to think about movement. So our illustrators, which is the gestures we make when we speak, get limited. Furthermore, we see a lot more things like verbal leaks and speech disfluency. So speech disfluency is like when I'm speaking and I try to say something, but I say the wrong thing, and I mix words. And verbal leaks is so they're very similar, but one is more jumbling words, and one is just things that aren't words that delay an answer because your brain is literally slowing down. We also see a lot of eye flutters in cognitive load because we're literally trying to figure out what the heck is going on. We see a lot of searching. So yeah, cognitive
blocking load. And it's all okay. Does Spidey interpret Amber Heard's negative facial expressions as disgust as how it appears, or is she using it as a cover because she thinks she's conveying some
what
other
a
emotion, but failed.
phenomenal question. You guys are so good. Eric, you're clearly putting out good content because these are very intellectual questions. Love that one. So very often, Amber, and it's funny, I was on the phone oh my God, speech fluency. Am I being deceptive?
Yes, probably. No, he is a mentalist.
I was on the phone yesterday with Chase Hughes. That's not a lie. And I was talking about this exact thing. So every now and then we'll see Amber look at the jury. Actually, we'll see her look at the jury quite a bit more than every so often. She's looking at them 90% of the time. And mid-sentence, we'll see a face scrunch. She'll be saying something, she'll go, and I was doing this, and then like this, and she'll just say something. And two things are happening there. We're seeing this crinkle, and we're seeing her squint. And we see her squint quite often. Actually, it's not that often. But we see her squint at the jury every now and then. And this expression, to me, the way I interpret it is, I get that this is hard to believe. Like she's trying to connect with them. She's like, I get it. Or I'm trying really hard here to give you all the facts. I do think every now and then there is a bit of disgust when she's remembering certain things, but it's not so much in those moments where she's talking to the jury. When she's talking to the jury and we see this sort of, no, because often her eyes will go up, we'll get that lip smack, this kind of thing. So I really believe it's her going like, I'm really trying to think here. I'm scrunching my face to get this information. And I know, and it happens also, I know this is hard to believe, but bear with me. So I think
Lena calls it the mouth shrug.
So the mouth shrug is often consistent with that. Mouth shrugging is when we have a lip compression, but it's raised. So it's that kind of thing. So she does that a lot in conjunction with that. I don't know. I'm trying here. I don't know. Like mouth shrugging very much comes with, I don't know what else to say. I'm trying to give you facts, but I don't know what else to say. That's what mouth shrugging often comes with. Or also mouth shrugging happens in shared grief. So it can also be that that's what she's doing to try to gain sympathy. Because think about like when you go to a funeral or a sad event, you might lock eyes with someone and you might get one of these. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
It's that same mouth shrug. So what that is, it's for a different reason though. It's because when we're sad or grieving, there's tension in the chin. The grief muscle is up here and down here. So this happens. It's very hard to smile to someone when you're actually grieving. It's hard to get those corners up. So you're here. So you see someone you know, there's tension here, you try to smile, all you can get is...
Well, it's empathy too. It's like, I feel. I feel it, man. I feel what you're feeling.
Yeah. And then add to that the fact that just lip compression is withheld opinion, because we're getting a lot of lip activity from Amber on this stand. A lot of and this really, really impressive, like downwards, like a beaker from the Muppets.
Yes. She gets some real expressions.
I can't even do it. Am I doing it? Oh, I kind of got it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're doing well. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know what the hell that is. Like, when
would
I ever do this? It's so hard. Anyway, so she's got a lot of this sort of mouth shrugging, lip compression. There's a lot of activity there. But tightness, for me, tightness in the lips means there's something I can't say or there's something I don't want to say. It goes back and forth. Yeah.
All right. So let me see. What are your thoughts on the body language between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp and their lawyers? Somebody did a breakdown for them. I'm going to spoil it, but somebody did a breakdown. A good friend of mine, Susan Ibitz, she did a breakdown showing how Johnny's kind of in the little cluster of warmth, and Amber's lawyers are always running around, kind of scrambled and disjointed.
Yeah. Also,
in the classroom or in the
also
courtroom.
What I love is that Johnny's lawyers don't seem like they're pulling straws to see who gets to sit next to him. It's always the same. Ben's always to his right, and the other, I don't know the other one's name, the one who kind of looks like Amy Schumer a little bit, is always to his left. And they're happy to be there. And the other ones will get up and come see if he's okay. And there's one in the back who's hilarious. The one with the curly hair who sits next to Camille. During cross, whenever Camille would like get a good one in, we would see concealed excitement from that lawyer. She was often looking down and writing stuff, but we'd see like a lot more subtle than that. But like I'm gonna exaggerate it. It's this, but a lot more like concealed. She's like, oh, that was a good one. So listen, I honestly believe Johnny's team is rooting for him, I don't know how much Amber's team is rooting for her, because there were multiple occasions during cross-examination where Camille was crossing the line and Elaine could have objected, but didn't. There were times where Camille straight up said, you like to, what did she say? Not doctor, but you like to stage. You like to stage pictures, don't you, Amber? And Elaine didn't object for speculation.
Well, there's
but
other
also,
bipolar. Oh, go on.
Also, on the stand, Amber Heard threw her lawyers under the bus. Numerous times she was like, oh, I gave these pictures. I gave these pictures and the lawyers didn't turn it in. So yeah.
I was going to say too, you mentioned Ben Chu sitting next to Johnny Depp. I don't know if you've seen any of the little cuts on or cutaways about that when Ben Chu is like snagging Johnny's jelly beans or the candies.
That's funny.
And then he's like eating and Johnny kind of looks over at him askance and Ben's like, how you doing? But it's like there's a playfulness there.
Yeah.
There's a good relationship. I can't see anybody playing with Amber Heard.
And let me tell you something. If you saw your client as an aggressive, abusive, violent person, you wouldn't do anything that could even slightly upset them up there, including taking their jelly beans. You just wouldn't mess with them.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Because it could trigger him. His reaction could be stronger, but
maybe he really wanted that. Maybe he really wanted that jelly bean.
Yeah.
What's going to happen? What's going to happen if you really wanted that? I get pretty triggered when people steal my jelly beans. So, and I consider myself a pretty docile person. So for him to be okay with that, I'm not saying like, don't put a lot of weight on this. I'm just saying, if I knew someone that is easily irritable, I just wouldn't mess with any of their stuff.
Right. Well, some people you can play with. Yeah. Other people you can't play with.
Yeah.
And the fact that his legal team, at least part of them with Ben, feel comfortable enough with him to play is very significant. And I look at the long-term employees he has. It's like these people have been with him for decades. Yeah. And that's saying something.
Yeah.
Versus
and you look at the witnesses he brings up, and these are all people who have been around for a long time and they love him and they have such great things to say about him. And for her, it looks like she had to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get a couple of people to come up and testify for her.
Yeah. Again, the short straws. So, yeah. All right. Question from Astrid. For Spidey, as a very empathetic person myself, I was wondering, is it easy for you to analyze someone's behavior without your own emotions getting in the way? Huge fan.
So Astrid, the research shows that your emotions are actually making you worse at detecting deception, better at detecting emotions, worse at detecting deception. Because so empaths, I talk about empaths a lot. Empath, it's not, a lot of people think empath means like this magical voodoo thing. It's not. Empaths just have parts of their brain that regulate human-to-human connection more developed. So they feel for people a lot easier. They connect with emotions a lot easier. It makes you better at recognizing emotion. So when somebody's sad, you'll know it before I'll know it. You'll know it before somebody else would know it, because you see subtle signs and you connect with that very effectively. However, it makes you worse at detecting deception, because believe it or not, it is really, really hard to detect deception. I know that we make all these videos and we talk about all these clusters and stuff, but we're taking deep dives, really analyzing things. And at the end of the day, all we're telling you is there's a probability of deception here. I would have to probe. Never in my career have I been in a position where I will bet you $1 million that someone is for a fact being deceptive. We have high confidence, but we can never be sure. So,
but you would bet $1,000 that Amber Heard is.
Yes, in places, there's deception.
No, but overall, that there's deception in there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would bet $1 million on that. Yeah, I'd bet anything on that. I'd bet my condo on that. So, so Astrid, to go back to what you were saying, your empathy makes you better at connecting with emotions, but less effective at detecting deception, because deception, to be good at it, you really have to stop thinking, because you might see something about the person you don't like, and you're going to filter through that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, when it comes to, when it comes to connecting and knowing what someone's experiencing emotionally, use your empathy, no problem. When you're trying to detect deception, you have to turn it off and just look at the facts.
Good point. Southern Thing wants to know, question, thoughts on the Karens that were cutting line? How rude, why people behave like that? I don't quite understand the context on that one.
Karens who were cutting line. I don't know.
Yeah,
like to
I'm
get
sorry.
into the courtroom, or if you could clarify.
Maybe, yeah, I'm not sure on that one. Let's see, did you hear the audio where Amber Heard was laughing maniacally at JD about him being on 21 Jump Street?
Absolutely. It was crazy. It was like a cackle, like a mischievous, evil witch laughter. And this was not the laugh of someone who's scared of someone.
No.
Listen.
Oh, God.
You don't.
The knife. The knife.
The knife. But here's the thing. So the knife was very early on. So I'm not excusing it. You don't give an abuser a weapon at all. But this laughter that's being described was very late. It was way after she'd alleged that he'd been abusive. You don't trigger or irritate an abuser like that with this condescending, evil cackle. You just don't.
Oh, yeah. Tell him, Johnny. Tell him. What do you think about Amber walking out before the jury and judge?
Yeah, she was pissed. I believe that was yesterday. All these days have jumbled into my mind.
That was, for her first day of cross, I think.
For 16th, because on the 17th too, she went for a mad dash out of there.
Yeah, it was the end of the day, and that they ended the cross on the end of the day, right? Because the next day her cross was kind of part day.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It may have been at lunch though. I don't remember when it was, but yeah, she just stormed out of there. Listen, if you're asking the question, if you're asking the question, you know the answer.
Well, good point. But yeah, that I would say not good at all for the jury. Question: if you're watching the day Amber was coming down from the stand and saw Johnny and acted all scared, what was your take on the reaction? Do you remember that little incident?
Yeah. It's the same thing I've been saying this entire time. Why are you suddenly so scared of his presence? Why are you suddenly so scared of talking about him? We saw your deposition in 2016. You were snacking. And I've said this and took a bit of heat for it. I said in my video, you don't eat when you're stressed. Let me clarify. There's two kinds of stress. There's anxiety and there's trauma-related stress. Anxiety can cause you to snack, munch, fidget, things like this, to just sort of keep your hands busy when you're feeling anxious on the surface. But when you're deeply traumatized, you go into fight or flight mode. And you're not thinking about appetite, you're thinking about survival. If you look at the woman on the stand that we've been seeing the last couple of days, or maybe 2 weeks ago also, crying and sobbing, no tears, and all this sort of like panic, would you imagine that woman stopping for a snack? No, it's not the same person. However, she's talking about the same events. So how is it that 6 years ago you're talking about this stuff, having some snacks, just chill. There's moments of anger, but you're not all messed up. And now you can't even look at him without running in the other direction. Or when he's testifying, you don't seem like you want to run away. You don't seem scared of him, but all of a sudden you are. The way he turned around and he went like, whew, like this, like he had a chill, that was the entertainer Johnny, being like, oh, there goes the wicked witch, which is where you would expect their dynamic to be now after all this disaster. Listen, it's not I know it's kind of ironic to say, it's not an enormously telling moment for me, but I think it was overacted. Had she just seen him and been like, whoa, and just gone the other way, I would believe that. But for her to stop, like, oh my God, I think I might die because he's coming towards me. Somebody help me.
Have you heard of flopping? Like in basketball, it's flopping. Like if somebody gets fouled in basketball, like somebody touches them.
Oh my God, I'm so hurt. Yeah.
That's kind of what she was doing. If you think about it, it's like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. It's over. And please don't take our casual mockery as us condescending victims and their reactions. It's not at all. Listen, please keep in mind, we have to put on an entertaining show. Sometimes we get carried away. It's not us going, there's no circumstance in which that's acceptable. She's overacting. There are circumstances in which someone's going to get extremely emotionally triggered by seeing their abuser. But this was overacted. In my opinion, I could be wrong. It could have been a legitimate reaction. I'm always willing to accept that my interpretation is just that. My interpretation could be wrong, but that's how I interpreted it.
Well, like the old show Monk. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. Georgina, thank you again so much. Question: I feel very deeply emotions of others. I don't feel emotion when Amber speaks. I actually get a little confused with her words and what I feel.
So I called that in my video. When I made both my videos, I did one on Johnny Depp and I did one on Amber Heard. And again, please, if you're following
Check
Eric,
them out, seriously.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And if you're here from my channel, please subscribe to Eric. He has some of the best guests in psychology on the channel. And anyways, in my first video on Johnny Depp, I made a bet. I said, I bet that the empaths, the people who are very connect emotional people, will be very sad in this moment. And with Amber, at a time where she was really having this breakdown, I said, I bet you will not connect with what she's saying. And the reason for that is because her emotions are what an actor tries to do as opposed to natural. And one of the best examples of this is something I talked about in a short that I made, is the fact that when she's sad, and she's talking, and we see that this thing, what she's doing is activating the muscles of her mouth and her chin to make her mouth go downwards. That's because we all know that when you're sad, your mouth goes downwards. We have all kinds of emojis for it. We know that. Yeah. But she doesn't understand why the mouth goes downwards. It's not because the muscles of the mouth go downwards. It's because when we're sad, everything in the face relaxes. We literally give up hope, right? Like sometimes we say like, I can't, I've given up. Like it's a very sad thing where your face just gives up. And there's a lot of drooping. The eyes droop, the eyelids droop, the outer corners of the eyes, of the eyebrows droop as the inner corners go up. This is grief. The cheeks droop. And when the cheeks droop and they relax, they pull the corners of the mouth down. It's subtle. It's not tense. It just does this. This is sadness.
You're melting.
She doesn't know that. So in trying to copy that, she's activating the muscles of her mouth to go like this. And it just looks unnatural. It's not the way it's supposed to look.
It's the reverse of the Duchenne smile. It's the same principle. People who have a fake smile, it doesn't crinkle their eyes. She's doing the exact same thing with sadness. Yeah. And ironically, if she had a mask on, you would see cold eyes.
Yes.
And nobody would be fooled.
So do you know, it's so funny because a lot of analysts talk about the Duchenne smile. Do you know what the opposite of the Duchenne smile is called? Like when it's not, because Duchenne smile is an authentic smile where you're happy, and when we're actually happy,
the crinkle and
the crow's feet is called over here. But do you know what the opposite of a Duchenne smile is called?
The salesman.
It's close. It's called the Pan Am smile.
Oh, like Pan America Airlines.
Because of the old Pan Am ads where the stewardess was like, "Hi, welcome to Pan Am."
Oh wow, that's great.
So it's called the Pan Am smile. So you know what, Eric? We have now dubbed a behavior analysis term for Amber's frown, and it's called the Pan Am frown.
Love it. Sounds good. Sounds sad. Gavin Stone has a question for Spidey. Do you find it hard to read people you know well as opposed to people you don't know or have just met?
Hey, Gavin, what's going on, man? Thank you for watching. Gavin's great, by the way. Some of the best stuff on statement analysis. He was in Eric's last video. I highly encourage you guys to go check it out because Gavin's going to see stuff that I won't, because he spent a lot more time studying. Statement analysis is part of behavior analysis. It's also part of what I do as a performer. But Gavin's got some great work on that. It's a great question. It depends on the person, and it depends how keen I am on. Look at that. I think of Gavin. I start speaking like a British person. How keen I am to spot the deception. So what I would say is people I know well will be able to get deception past me when I'm not on. When I'm not looking for it, because my default is to trust them. But if I'm thinking they did something that I need to figure out, I'll be better at it in that scenario because I know their baseline. I know what they look like when they lie. So I think it's a yes and a no.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a yes, speaking for me. And by the way, Scott Rouse has been public about it before, but he had a wife who was cheating on him. He's a body language expert, and he got fooled. Nobody is perfect.
Scott is a lovely, lovely person. I just want to hug Scott because
great guy. Yes.
He wears his heart on his sleeve. It's unbelievable. And I think a big part of the reason he's so good at what he is, what he does is because he had to learn how to be good at it, because as a default, he sucks at it. He even talks about in his book how he walked in one day into his brother's, he was at his brother's, I think, I don't know the details, and his nephew said something, just like this white lie, and Scott just bought it because he defaults to just believing people. But he's one of the best in the world at what he does.
Yeah. Oh, and he is. And I'm definitely not wanting to take anything away from him. I'm just saying Scott and the others are 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the global gurus, top body language experts in the world. That's the behavior panel. Yeah. But even the best in the world can fall prey to somebody who wishes to victimize them. And everybody should know that. It's sort of like me telling you, Spidey, I'm sorry, it's impossible. You can never hypnotize me. You'd be like, oh, yeah? Really?
No, I believe it. No, I believe it. I believe it.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, it's funny because also, like, I think because they're so sort of, their job is to be so skeptical of people, they let their guards down in their personal life. I can pretty much promise you, and I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to say something else to make up for it. I can get a white lie past Chase. I think Chase is one of my closest friends. I'm pretty sure I get, and I say that being very aware of the fact that, by my esteem, Chase is the best behavior analyst in the world. And despite that, I think, not in all circumstances, but I think that if we're just hanging out casually, I can put a white lie past Chase. And I love it because he was actually here at my Florida condo a couple of months ago. And I was sitting there's a table right in front of me. I was sitting right there. He was sitting on that orange couch you see right there. And I was going to drive him to the airport the next morning. And I said, and I was on my computer, and I go, Chase, I'll drive you tomorrow. He's like, oh, dude, don't worry about it. The traffic's going to be too much. Don't worry about it. And I go, no, dude, don't worry about it. I'll happily drive you. And he goes, no, Spidey, I'm telling you, I already booked the Uber. And I don't even look up from my computer. And I go, Chase, I can't even see you right now, but you scored at least a 20 on your own behavior table on that. Your Uber is not booked. And he goes, oh, well, it might as well be. I was about to do it. Because I know his kindness. Like, I know his, like, I didn't see him. I didn't know anything that was going on. It was just a white lie that he told to spare me the having to get up to drive him. But I know his heart. And I know that he was saying that, like, he kind of muttered it really quick. He's like, oh no, the Uber's already booked. And I was like, no, it's not. You're just saying that to shut me up.
Hey, lies are social lubricant. That's the truth. Yeah. Because, I mean, let's be honest. When we say, hey, how you doing? Fine, thank you. Good. Do we really want to know if we're not fine? Probably not. A lot of it is just a transaction. It's just to keep talking.
We're taught courteous deception ever since we're young. We're told when you open that present that your uncle gave you, smile and say thank you, even if you already have it or you don't want it or you don't know what it is or you don't care for it. And we're told, to tell people they look nice, and and it's not always true. I don't like white lies personally. If I don't think somebody particularly looks nice on a given day, I'll find something to compliment that's truthful. So I'm not personally a huge fan of white lies, but we're taught ever since we're young.
So what you're saying is, if I walked up to you and I said, Spidey, how do I look? You say, you're on time.
No, I would say that is a really nice polo. It's a really great color. I love it. Where did you get it? Okay. And I'd give you a big hug.
Thank you, Amanda. Thoughts, and this stood out to me too. Thoughts on Amber Heard upset when called a victim. That was very, very interesting, because I thought it was like,
be called a victim. I've never said I'm a victim. Yeah, we never said you're a victim either.
No, you're only saying that you're the face for domestic abuse, whatever.
It's incongruent.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting thing.
I think she shifts her message with what she thinks people need to hear in that moment.
Could be.
That's a Gavin question.
Oh, yeah, for sure. By the way, Gavin has added abilities to some of this because he's done a lot of spy work and elicitation. So it's like a whole nother angle of, getting in with people having.
By the way, my lighting is changing here because the sun is right in front of me and it's setting. So sorry, but you guys.
No worries. We're wrapping up here soon on the last
beautiful sunset on my face.
Okay, how does Johnny's ADHD and empathetic personality make it hard for him to protect himself from Amber and her diagnosis?
That's a great question, and we see examples of that. So there's a recording where he's saying he needs to get away. He needs to just take some time away. And she's going, you're hurting me. You're hurting me when you say that. And he just stops and he goes, well, why? Why am I hurting you? And he dignifies that unjustified hurt. And that's him just trying to say, I don't want you to be hurt. I do think he has highs and lows, by the way. I want that on record. I do think most of the time he just wants to be left alone to his own devices. I think he's more of a lover than a hater.
He's an introvert.
What's that?
He's an introvert. And I can tell you that I'm very introverted, and I don't know if I'm an empath or whatever, but people's emotions are overwhelming to me. If I'm in a room and there are people yelling at each other, it really, I kind of start to just get frazzled. Yeah. And I'm wondering if he might be the same way, where if he feels just all this friction in the air, he wants to go to the bathroom. He wants to hide. He wants to shoot up. Everything about him is pulling in, it seems. Even his drug habit is withdrawing.
He's an introvert, but he's also an artist. And artists, in their moments where their emotions take over, they want what they want and they want it now. So I do think there were times where it's possible in an altercation where he may have shoved her, not violently or with intent. I don't know that. I think it's silly for any of us to claim that we can tell by these testimonies if he ever intentionally was abusive. We can all speculate based on what we're seeing. There's no evidence of that. I agree there's no evidence of that. But to take that to say it's absolutely never happened, I would bet my life on it, you can't say that. And again, remember, we have to stay in the logical when it comes to this. The moment you let your emotions get the best of you, your analysis is worthless. So none of us can say for a fact he absolutely never laid a hand on her. It doesn't seem like he did. She has no evidence that she did. Her case that he did is very, very weak. So yeah, we could default to say he didn't because there's no proof that he did, but it's two separate things. Anyways, it's a detail that's
definitely sketch.
But when his emotions are triggered, I think he has the potential to kind of be like, just leave me alone, So it's such a nuance.
True, but they're doing a good job of saying, look, she can't even give to the charity. Every single thing out of her mouth is a lie. Why believe the rest? I mean, it's kind of like, can you believe anything the woman says? That's a good angle because they have a lot to prove. All right, so we've run over already. So I'm going to do, I guess, a speed round to just get last few questions out.
Let's go.
And
Thunder, lightning round.
All right, who would be the best actors, actresses to play all participants in the dramedy with emotional and behavioral accuracy? Never mind. Just kidding.
What's that?
Just kidding. But if you have names, go for it.
I think they should cast Johnny Depp to play Johnny Depp.
I can see that working.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't given this much thought.
How would you approach Amber, as a sympathetic fan or a man who scoffs at Johnny, or what else?
Approach her in what sense? If I wanted to get the truth out of her, I would empathize and socialize and say things along the lines of, listen, I totally get it. I've been there too, where someone just drives you nuts and sometimes it gets out of hand, and out of a lack of better options, you might shove him or push him, and that's the only way you can get out of that situation. I don't think anybody would judge you for that. In fact, I think it's great that you stood up to your abuser. So I would empathize, socialize, minimize her own actions in an interrogation. That's where I would go with that.
All right. I don't know if you saw the sister's testimony, but looks like Amber was giving her sister the finger, or was it nothing?
I didn't see that moment. What I did see was Whitney's testimony. I thought there wasn't anything where it was like, I witnessed, Johnny like numerous times beat the crap out of her. There was that one incident in the stairs, which is a very weird story because it's not really adding up and things are not really synchronized. And there's things in this narrative that don't work with that narrative. So there needs to be a lot of digging there. But it is a point where Whitney said that she witnessed Amber repeatedly hitting witnessed Johnny repeatedly hitting Amber in the face. She did say that Amber hit him first, but that was there. And Whitney is either a better actress than Amber or is telling truths more often than Amber.
Well, that's a little
not always. There are indications of stress, but they're pretty consistent.
Did you catch the Duper's delight during Cross? And how do you feel about JD laughing? I feel it's a coping mechanism imprinted in his DNA, but I could be wrong.
No, you're absolutely right. Oh, the Duchess of Duchess. she's one of my subscribers, and I hope yours too. She's incredible. Always really great, insightful comments. Nice. Duping delight. So I hope you're talking about Amber's duping delight, because there were moments, quite a few, where she looked down at a bit of evidence or heard something, or we saw that little smirk. We also see, and listen for this, if you guys go back and watch the cross, we also see deep breaths before, when something comes up that she knows is going to be a difficult thing for her to handle. So when the Corden interview comes up, we hear this, and we even see her look down and kind of shake her head like this with an eye block. And I'm going to cover that in my video, but that's a little bit of a little tip for you guys. For those of you who came to watch this before the analysis, that's one of the things I'm going to talk about. When Corden comes up, she goes, and we get that downwards eye block, but we do see duping delight in those moments as well. So she has duping delight. In Johnny's case, listen, there are times where he smiles and smirks that I think are inappropriate, but Johnny Depp does this even when he's talking about stuff that were
like the turd in the bed.
Yeah,
he was kind of laughing, like it is sort of crazy.
And the cutting of the finger, the cutting of his own finger, which is undeniable, because otherwise you could say, well, maybe he's duping delight. But when he's talking about the cutting of his own finger, which there's records of and photographs of, there's those uncomfortable smirks. So Johnny does smile when he's uncomfortable. But I don't like the double standard of saying it's duping delight with her, but not with him. I'm just trying to bring
his laughing on the side too, because there's different points of laughing. Like I've seen multiple times when she starts really going into a story, and he's leaning over, but you see his forehead going, and he's looking over at the lawyer, and you're just and he's like, wait, what is she saying now? It's like a surprise. I swear I see actual surprise.
There's numerous times where we see a look that could loosely be translated to, "Whoa, this is new."
Yeah, exactly. He's like, and they're looking at the lawyer over here, and the lawyer's going, "Hey, man, just keep her talking. Keep her talking."
Ben Chu is awesome. Ben Chu looks like he's just relaxed, no tension.
Yes. Okay. Weston. I'm just kidding. Question: do DVSV victims normally use words like wonderful, beautiful to describe the good times?
Great question. I talked about this in my previous. Really. I talked about this in my previous video. It could happen. It could happen and it has happened, and I have seen it, to where people go back to the past and describe it the way it was. It's rare. It's rare when she's talking about their first kiss on the movie set, when he put his tongue in her mouth. She's giddy and she's smiling and she's got those butterflies.
Yeah, it's current. That's creepy.
I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's extremely rare, especially because we're not talking about you going back to the beginning and telling us how you met and this kind of thing. It's him putting his tongue in your mouth. This person who abused you, that you now see as a monster.
The monster has a tongue in your mouth.
You're talking about the monster's tongue in your mouth. I would not expect to see that amount of giddiness. Can it happen? It can. It's rare.
All right. Question. Spidey, was the mispronunciation of skeletal today her reading?
I didn't hear that. I'm so sorry.
All right.
Sorry. I'm still going through.
Ryan Holiday, does Amber have Botox, or is her forehead just numb?
I don't know the scientific answer to that. I would think she does have Botox or some procedure, because we're seeing a lot less wrinkling than we should.
All right. Garavito, can the lawyers, or do they use experts like you? Yes, especially for picking juries.
So often we go in for jury selection. We also go in for witness prep every now and then, but we cannot have a direct influence. We can't testify or have a direct influence on the jury, because there's a margin of error to what we do. And even the best behavior analysts in the world will tell you we don't have answers, just probabilities. So when we're doing an interrogation, when we see these clusters, it's never like lock the person away, they're guilty. It just allows us to know where to ask more questions to eventually get a confession. So we're not looking for those clusters as an answer, only a path.
No, it's like digging. When you take the shovel and you go tap, 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 tap. Okay, it's a little softer here.
Yeah.
Let's start digging. Mindy actually had a second part, and she's put in a super chat. P.S. Can you reprogram my brain?
With hypnosis, yeah. I did hypnotherapy for years. I have extensive experience, and hypnosis is a very misunderstood thing, but I did a lot of that for a while. So yeah, I can.
Okay, Busha, who appreciates, loves you, Eric. You do, Busha. Thank you very much.
I do. I do.
Spidey, I sense it. Thank you. And Joe Jersey, this will be the last question. Can Amber be charged separately for the lies about not donating the $7 million? That's interesting. I don't know
That's
that
a
she can be
question
charged.
for a lawyer.
Yeah.
What do you think, Eric?
I don't think she can necessarily be charged because that's an agreement between her and the agency. She could potentially be charged with perjury, though.
Yeah.
For saying that she did do it in the British courts.
I don't know how that works,
maybe.
But I would encourage you to go follow some of the amazing lawyers that Eric is in touch with, like Legal Bites, or
Viva Fry, Nate the Lawyer, Hogue Law, Ricada Law. Joe Neerman is Good Logic. I know all of them.
Yeah, all those guys will have the answer for you.
And emailer saying she only pledged. No, she did say she donated. Multiple times. That was the exact word that she used, was read back from the testimony. Yeah. So maybe she's confused.
She defended it by saying she uses those words synonymously, but they're not the same.
Law Nerds, Emily D. Baker. How could I forget that?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so many.
How the hell did I forget Emily?
Yeah. Emily is absolutely.
And now, Law and Lumber, Rob Morton.
Yeah. And then there's uncivil law. Oh God, there's so many lawyers.
Yeah, absolutely, Kurt. Yeah, all these guys will have the answer for you.
But on that note, hope to have you back, Spidey, so we can address this and other things, and might actually slip beyond the Depp trial into other
like our lives. What is our lives outside of this trial? I don't know. Like, I'm in Florida. I'm at my condo in Florida. Like, literally, I want you to see this. Like, I don't know if you're going to see it, but that's the beach right there. Like, right out there.
Nice.
Like, outside the window. And I've been literally 0 times since I've been here because I am just in production mode. So, yeah, this is just our lives now.
Well, you know what? At least your channel is blowing up 400,000 plus within, 30 days?
A month and a half.
Okay, a month and a half. You went from 2,900 subs to 400 and some odd thousand subscribers, which is just mind-blowing. So, folks, I'll take a fraction of Spidey's subs. Come on over here. Hit that button. As Kurt or Uncivil Law would say, if the subscribe button is red, it's sad. We don't want a sad button. And does analyzing Whitney help with Amber's reading?
No analyzing of one person helps you analyze someone else. You have to treat every read as a separate thing. Whitney's story corroborates some of what Amber said. But, this is how these trials work. Like you get when you're listening to the testimony of all the Johnny Depp people, you go, oh, Johnny Depp clearly didn't do this. Then you get all the Amber Heard people, you go, oh, maybe he did this. So, again, try to stay unbiased. It doesn't serve anyone to jump to conclusions. There's an overwhelming amount of deception coming from Amber. No one's denying that. She has really nothing substantial to prove. In fact, times where she keeps saying, I didn't want to come here and prove what I proved. You didn't prove anything. So she has a very, very big lack of proof. So we could sit here comfortably and go, Johnny's probably innocent of all this, but let's keep an open mind. This is still a trial that's ongoing.
It's a perfect way to end that. Spidey, thank you so much. Can't wait till next time, and we'll see you on.